Today, I am reacting to another video from Paul of psaudio and Octave Records. Paul doesn't know me, I don't know Paul, but I do enjoy his videos. And although they're kind of short form videos, I feel that he tends to cover complicated subjects in a short amount of time sometimes. And I always have so much more to say about them. And if I'm going to holler at my own TV screen, I might as well put myself on camera and talk to you all too. And maybe we can all learn and trade ideas together and trade information together. That's the fun part about the audiophile community. So I saw this video come through just on my own personal YouTube feed as a recommended video, different levels of audiophiles. And I have not watched this video. You and I are going to watch it together for the first time for me anyway. The subject really caught my attention because what's a level of audiophile if you think about it? So maybe I fell for a little bit of clickbait there. Hey, Paul, your hook worked, man. You reeled me in. So different levels of audiophile. Is that what I think it is? Are we going to get hierarchical here? Let's find out.
Tink, T-I-N-K. I love it for a name. That's great. He's from Lower Alabama. I guess that's the low part of Alabama. He writes, "Dear Paul, is there more than one level of audiophile?"
Okay. Got to stop you right there, Paul. Let me throw my 2 cents in. No. I don't love the idea of that already. It's not such a big community, audiophiles, right? This is a niche, and I think every year there are those of us who have been in it a while that kind of more and more start thinking, boy, it's kind of a dying niche. I don't know that that's necessarily true. And in this age of increased information and a great platform like YouTube, like we have here, there's a lot of different people like me just sticking cameras in front of their faces and talking about it while Paul's doing the same thing, right? So I think everybody's relationship with music in modern times is maybe changing a little, but there certainly still exists a pretty decent niche of us who, whether we call ourselves audiophiles or whether we're just music lovers and it's less about the gear and just more about listening to music, whatever reason you have been brought to this video and these types of videos and this type of content, I think that we all have more common ground than not, whether you've got hundreds of dollars into your system or thousands of dollars or tens of thousands, or I've even heard systems that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Regardless of what you've got, we're all music lovers, and I don't love the idea of establishing some kind of audiophile hierarchy. What say you there, Paul?
A topic that comes up in many of your YouTube informative videos are topics about high-end audio and audiophiles. I think that you might agree, considering your product line, I think you might agree.
psaudio.
Okay. My system consists of a Stellar S300 amp, a Stellar gain cell DAC preamp, good interconnection psaudio, a Blue OS streamer, a Cambridge CD player, cool, Audio Concept speakers. I don't have the highest price, best system, but it does satisfy me.
You don't need the highest priced system. And I think the most important thing about what Paul just read was that it satisfies this person. That's the main thing. And that's what I think really unites audiophiles and music lovers generally. Is the whole point of it all is that you want to be satisfied. Now, outside of levels of audiophile, and which has, hierarchical connotations that I don't love, I think there's a couple of kinds of audiophiles that I've personally come across in my couple of decades in the hobby. one type of audiophile really is in it for the playing around with equipment and trying different things and trying different tweaks and trying to really push the limits of what they can get out of a system, whatever caliber of equipment they might have. I think there's this type that just really is in it kind of for the thrill of the chase of a certain type of sound and really trying to push the limits of equipment and play with different setups. And there's a lot of people that just like to trade gear because it's fun. You might live with amplifiers or speakers or whatever that you enjoy, and then after a while you just get the itch to try something else, and I think that's fine. And that's definitely one type of audiophile that I've come across, and frankly one type that I've been before. And then there's another type of audiophile that really they're just looking for the best sound based on a certain type of sound that they want. And if they're going through different equipment, it's just to get as close to that type of sonic signature or sound reproduction or experience from their systems that they really have in their head. And once they get there, they're done. They're happy. They don't change very much. And it's really just about enjoying the music and attaining that experience that they wanted from their equipment. And once they get it, they're done. I think those are really the two sort of big types. And personally, I've dipped my toes in both of those waters. The system that I have now, I really haven't done any big changes to. That's not to say it's the perfect system for me, but at some point, you got to get off the gear trading and setup tweaking merry-go-round and just enjoy the music and not drive yourself crazy. But those are really the kind of couple of main types of audiophiles that I've run across, and it doesn't matter so much how much money they have into equipment or what caliber of equipment that is considered. So I'm starting to ramble, so keep going, Paul. What do you got for us?
What level of audiophile am I? You are.
Wait. What level of audiophile are you is an audiophile who likes music, just like the rest of us, right? Right? What are you going to say, Paul? I'm actually nervous. I'm actually nervous about what he's going to say.
You are a fully qualified audiophile, my friend.
Yes. Oh, thank God, Paul. My faith in you is restored. Yeah, I'm with Paul on this one. You are a fully qualified audiophile, right? You have some equipment. It does what you want. You're satisfied with it. You like it. It brings you much joy. You sit and listen to music on it. That's what it takes. That's all it takes. It doesn't matter what you've got. I know people who have low-end components that they may be bought at yard sales for cents on the dollars. And maybe it's just old, nothing special components from the 80s or 90s or whatever. And it's set up in their garage because a significant other doesn't want it in the house or whatever. And by God, it does not stop them from sitting around, hanging out, listening to their favorite albums and drinking a cold beverage of their choice. And that's all you need. That is all you need, right?
Yeah, there's no question that in any sport, any hobby, any passion-driven enterprise, there are different levels that people attend to it. Some are what I would call casual audiophiles. They get a great system, they get a good pair of speakers, a nice amp and integrated, and they hook it up and they enjoy music, and that's pretty much the end of it.
Okay, yeah. I'm loving that Paul's kind of thinking along the same lines as me as far as you got that sort of type of audiophile that they just want the sound that they're looking for, and when they get it, they're done, right? That's along the lines of what I was talking about. Interesting.
And that and everything in between, all the way up to the crazy, obsessed people like me.
I shouldn't say we've all been there. I've been there too. As I say, I've been kind of both of those versions where I've rolled a ton of different equipment at different price points through my system. Of course, we all have our limits in terms of our abilities and relationships with money. I've had really high-end speakers and components in my system, stuff that I maybe bought used for good prices. I used to belong to a group of audiophiles, especially in my younger days, because I got started in this thing early, like in my early 20s is when I started really investigating proper high-end stuff. And I think there were a lot of people who'd been in it for a long time who were just amused to see some young blood, and they were really good to me. And sometimes gave me some good deals on gear that they were looking to roll out because they wanted to try different things. So I've had, some really properly high-end stuff in my system and gotten rid of it, either because I needed the money or because I got tired of it or it wasn't quite what I wanted or whatever the reason was. So I've had the enjoyment of trying different things and having different sonic experiences in my own home. And also I've had the great pleasure of just hearing a ton of other systems in other people's homes and getting to experience lots of different styles of playback to start to learn what it is that I was after and what satisfied me. So yeah, I feel like I've been both of those audiophiles, the crazy, obsessed, just has to try everything out and try the really esoteric, fancy stuff. But of course, in my life, I've also just had really simple, low-end stuff. And I still have some low-end stuff because that's, serves a need in certain systems. I don't need every single playback device in my life to be high end. There are limits, right, to when you do and don't want or need really fancy stuff. I kind of want to do a separate video on that. Maybe I should. Drop a comment below if you'd like to see me do that. I would be happy to oblige. But yeah. Okay, so Paul, you're one of the crazies, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Immerse ourselves almost daily in keeping up with all the new stuff, of getting excited when new equipment comes by, so it's that to everything else. And I would put you somewhere, well, you have a stellar system, so that's really quite good. I would put you somewhere right in the middle of all of that. Not that that kind of status actually matters. It's just,
I almost paused to say, gee, Paul, that doesn't really matter. But yeah, he's absolutely right. Totally agree with Paul on this. The whole status of it isn't nearly as important as I think some people in the hobby like to think. We shouldn't all be super gatekeepy about accessing what constitutes an audio file. You can be this type of person and in this type of hobby without anything really fancy. But if you have competent gear and it's set up well, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that sort of separates the really casual music listeners to maybe what would constitute an audiophile. It's not even high-end stuff. It's just maybe that you took the extra care to set things up in a certain way. You have your speakers placed properly and symmetrically so you're getting a good sound stage. You've put a modicum of effort into your room acoustics, and so you've put a little bit of effort into just getting a baseline, what anybody would objectively call a baseline good sounding reproduction. I think that's really the point of entry, is not the quality that you have, the price that you paid, but just that you've put any effort at all into setting it up and hearing what the manufacturers of that equipment would say constitutes proper setup and how it's supposed to sound, and also trying to get closer to where the producers, the engineers of that music had made that music for. Audio engineers listen to good quality equipment and have carefully set up monitoring setups, and they're certainly all hearing a proper sound stage, and they're using a baseline of proper setup in their production of the music we're listening to in the first place. And the mastering engineers and everybody else who's involved with the technical side of making the music, they're certainly making sure that their setups are proper and optimized. And if you at home are also trying to do that and kind of respect what the people who made that music were intending you to hear, you're in. That's really all it takes, I think. That's my personal opinion anyway. What do you think about it? Drop a comment below. Do you think that's really the target, is just as long as you've made any effort at all to have a setup that constitutes what, any percentage of what was really intended by the people who made the music? Is that really the point of entry, and when you can start to call yourself an audiophile, a music lover, or whatever?
Sort of where we're at. I mean, one way you can judge about what level of audiophile you're at by, and I had written a post about this earlier, your attraction to audiophile catnip. What did I mean by that? We were sitting here looking at this new piece of gear. I don't know how much you can see, but look at this beauty. I'm not going to even tell you what it is.
Ooh, hold on. I've got to look at my other screen here to see what's going on there. Ooh, we got some pretty capacitors in there and a pretty robust looking supply and some miniaturized PCBs. Ooh, that's pretty, Paul. Very pretty. I like.
This is a new product that we're working on. I mean, I walked by this thing and I started petting all of this and going, oh my gosh.
Paul, are you batting at it like a cat, like it's yarn? Where are you going with that one?
Jordan, one of our techs, because one of the ladies here just said, what are you guys doing petting a piece of gear? And Jordan looked up and he said, it's catnip to audiophiles. Isn't it true?
It is.
And
yeah, I'll go with that.
If you come by and start petting things and really getting immersed in it, and I know I'm weird. That's okay.
We're weird, Paul. We're weird. I never even thought about it this way before, but have you ever had a system that was good enough that you just, even if you didn't have time to listen to it, you just poked your head into the room and just looked at it and went, man, that's nice stuff. I'm lucky to have that stuff. I'll put my hand in the air and say, I've done it. So I definitely get the sentiment there. Some of us have just had equipment that was really nice and made by the manufacturer to not just sound great, but to look really beautiful. And, the aesthetic part of high-end equipment is part of the allure of high-end equipment. When I was buying my first really high-end turntable, I had it down to I think it was either a VPI HW19.3, level 3, or a Michel Gyro SE. And I ended up getting the Gyro SE, and part of it was just that, God, it's gorgeous. It's just a gorgeous turntable. And the VPI, sonically equally very good setup. I mean, there wasn't much between them. Sonically, they're both very good. VPI had that much more classic, almost vintage look. And, they were both similar in terms of being spring-suspended turntables. Either was going to have a pretty good tone arm and cartridge setup on it, but I ended up going for the Gyro SE, and that was 22 years ago, and I still have it. Over the years, I've kind of thought about selling it more times than I could count, and I looked at what else I could get for about the same money, and I concluded that I wasn't going to do any better, just different. It turns out that the gyros, even though they're not cheap decks by any stretch of the imagination, they're a surprisingly good value for what they're worth, especially in today's dollars. I don't know where I'm exactly going with this other than to say, sometimes the aesthetics really matter. It did for me when I was buying my first really good turntable, and it's mattered less to me when it's come to other things like I have tube amps, and one of those tube amps is just a really pretty looking amp. You can tell that the manufacturer really intended for it to have a certain aesthetic. And then, so the preamp is kind of a pretty looking preamp. My power amp is a Conrad Johnson, and they have a certain way of doing things. It has a cage over the tube so you can hardly even see them, and it's got this champagne-colored faceplate that looks nice, but it's not anything like the work of art that preamp, I think, purports to be. I didn't buy those based on how they looked necessarily, but how they sounded and what they could do for me in terms of my objectives. But I will admit that aesthetics did play a little bit of part in my younger days, especially with my turntable selection. So I get the sentiment there. Sometimes our components are a little bit of, as Paul's calling, catnip, right? Something a little bit extra special that makes you go a little nutty for them, right? I think that's probably the sentiment there, but that's funny. I never thought of it that way.
Okay, that's all right. Don't get offended. Don't get scared. I don't come after people, but I am weird, and I do pet things
Weird.
like that. Audiophile catnip. So yeah, somewhere in between, there is a huge chasm, or not chasm, but a huge collection of different levels of audiophile, from the casual all the way up to the super obsessed.
I still say they're not levels. They're just styles. Maybe a better word for this than levels is styles. There's different styles of audiophiles. But again, if we're going to establish any kind of hierarchy or level of audiophile, I think it should be down to how much you love what you're hearing, right? Regardless of the level of quality and whether you're going and petting and caressing your equipment or not. I don't love, maybe I'm getting too far into semantics here, but I don't love this concept of levels. Styles, types are perfectly fine. All these little differences in how we approach music and sound reproduction are really what give us our differences, not the money we spent on it or the particular aesthetic our systems have. That's all kind of more circumstantial, for lack of a better word, don't you think? What are your thoughts about all this? Drop me a line in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Do you stroke and caress and massage your equipment? Is it catnip for you, as they're saying? Or is it really just you don't care, you just want it to sound good? You want it to sound good and hear your music in the way you want to hear your music.
What a great group of people to be associated with.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the question. Talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, all right. My faith in Paul restored there with the whole idea of levels of audiophiles. Paul, you're one of the good ones. Hope you don't mind me reacting to your videos. I thought this was a really good one. I definitely enjoyed this video, and boy, it gives you some food for thought. Catnip, boy, I'm never gonna look at my systems the same way again. And as I think about it, of my two kind of main systems that I would say are both audiophile systems, one is a dedicated listening room, proper high-end stuff, the tube amps, the fancy turntable, and carefully set up room acoustics and this sort of thing. The other one is just my living room that I use to watch TV and movies and play Xbox on. It's definitely a lower order of high end, but and it's not nearly as aesthetic. In fact, my objectives with the living room system was that I just wanted something really simple and basic and not showy, but that sounded good. Showy and fancy and esoteric is really what I'm doing in my main rig, my dedicated listening rig. That's where I got the fancy stuff. That's where I really put a lot of the extra effort in. So, even within our own systems, we can have different objectives for different systems in different rooms. I actually had a relatively high-end setup I have a room set up just as a home gym, weights at an elliptical machine and whatever. And I just wanted something that I could use to watch movies or YouTube or listen to music on while I worked out. And I had started out by setting up just kind of a parts system with spare high-ish end stuff that I had hanging around, and it bombed. It didn't fulfill my objectives. When I tried to listen to it over the din of fans running while I was working out, it just wasn't working. And so I ended up installing a cheap B-stock sound bar in there, and it's actually working way better for me. In fact, I could do a video on that. If anybody wants to see me do that, put a comment below if you want to see a video on when an audiophile rig is and isn't necessarily warranted, because I've definitely been through that before. But I digress. I don't want to ramble too much here. But yeah, levels of audiophile, levels of systems, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and I don't necessarily support that line of thinking. You're happy or you're not happy. You're satisfied or you're not satisfied. You're hearing the sound that you want or you're not. You care about that in the first place or you don't. I think that's really where the audiophile label comes in. If you care, then you're probably some kind of audiophile. If you care enough to set up a system a certain way to get a certain type of enjoyment out of that, or a certain sonic experience out of that, you're in. You're in. That's really the price of admission. It's not money. It's just whether or not you care in the first place. And if you're watching this video, if the YouTube algorithm is bringing this to the right people, probably you're in, right? You're an audiophile of some kind, or a music lover of some kind. So that's really the only level of audiophile is, do you care enough to do audio reproduction with a modicum of effort, or do you just not care how things sound at all? If you don't care how things sound at all, maybe you're not even watching this. I don't know. And if you are, hey, welcome. I'm one of the crazies that Paul's talking about. We're all a little crazy, but if you're curious about sound reproduction and you're trying to decide if this type of hobby is for you, if whether you want to be associated with this group of wackos or not, welcome. We're crazy, but we're nice. Most of us try to be nice. So, and we try to be supportive of each other and take this hobby in good humor, because at the end of the day, it's all in good fun, and we're all just trying to have fun hearing nice stuff. And that's really the whole point of it, and the fun of the hobby, and the fun of the community. What do you think about it? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Also, please consider going and watching the source video for yourself. I will link it at the end of this video and in the description. I don't want to be siphoning views from anybody, but rather to provide additional information and insight to videos that I think I'll find interesting. So please consider going over to Paul's channel and giving him a like and a view. And while you're at it, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you want to see more content like this, by all means, I'd sure appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button. And if you have any ideas for other things you want to see from me, please put those in the comments below. So thank you for watching this one. That was a fun one. And we'll see what I can get myself into in the next one. I'll see you next time.